So we're here today with Warwick Kinrade to look at and play through some games of Northag. So, why Northag? What is it?
It's a tabletop miniatures game written for Plastic Soldier Company for a Cold War gone hot scenario set in 1983.
Okay, and why particularly 1983?
Well, we needed to nail down a year so we know what equipment's in, what equipment's out. We didn't want it to be too general. 1983 seemed to be quite a period of high tensions between East and West, and it's before we get to the kind of next generation of tanks, pre-M1, Challenger, etc. So we're fighting with chieftains and M60s and stuff, which I thought was more interesting than doing the later tanks.
And so we're very much set in the British sector.
Yeah.
In the first opening of the game.
The game itself will include two army lists, so for the British Armoured Division and Russian Armoured Division for 3rd Shock Army. They're the two opponents for the game. Hopefully, if it goes well, then we can roll out and include more and more of the NATO forces. Obviously, the Americans and the Germans are high on the priority list to do.
And because of your very successful World War II Battlegroup game, there are a number of questions that people are already asking and will eventually ask. Is this just Battlegroup set after World War II? And why is it 10mm?
Right, okay, well, is it just the same? It is got the same DNA, I'd say, in the game, but it's a very different game. Everything has been changed. It's a bigger scale of game. There's more on the tabletop because it's been designed for 10mm. Although you can overstate that really, because it could playable at 15, 20, 28. Really, it's how big a table you've got. I think dictates more than the actual size of the models. And for 10mm, it's because, well, on a standard 6x4, 6x6 gaming table that most people have got, I just wanted the ranges to feel bigger than World War II. I wanted to feel like the distances. I mean, you can't get to actual distances because they're huge, but you can make it feel more like that, I think.
So the smaller the size of the figures,
the smaller the ground scale. So a 10mm tank has got effectively in Northag has got the same range in inches as a 20mm tank for Battlegroup. It's 50 to 70 inches, but of course that feels like double.
So if I was coming along from the Battlegroup World War II system, which is very much a 1/72 system, what would I recognise from that, and then what would I find new?
Right, okay, so you would recognise a lot. The orders system is still the same. You roll for orders, add officers, that's the number. The battle rating, chit drawing system, that's the same. Mechanic, it's a different set of chits. There's new special counters. For the orders, they've been adapted. There's group orders, platoon orders and company orders, so things can move en masse more because you've got more troops on the tabletop. The army list has been completely changed, so you don't select an army in the same way as you do for Battlegroup. The army is now divided into 3 big main chunks. There's a vanguard, there's a forward screen, a vanguard and a main force, and all the battles are escalated engagements. You start with your forward screen, the vanguard turn up to help them, and then behind them move up the main force. Beyond that, you then have something called reserve requests, which can extend the game. Extra troops can be asked for. Obviously, how reserve requests will work is based upon what army you're playing. So the Russians find it much easier to ask for reserves than, say, the British, who rapidly run out of tanks, etc. But that's an optional system. You don't have to play with reserves. You can just play it as a straight game. The reserves is a sort of advanced extra if you've got the time to include it. I like it because it feels like a bigger battle.
Okay, so is it one of the things that I've noticed playing it now is it isn't a tank park game. There's no sensation of everybody has to operate together and stay together.
No, there's no command radius or anything like that. I was thinking modern warfare, you've all got radios and stuff. Tanks don't operate at very, very close to each other, need to spread out. You can try that. There's nothing to stop you trying that in the game, but there's area effect weapons like artillery and mortars and stuff. They'll just they'll cause more damage to things that don't spread out. The same reason people really spread out to avoid everything getting killed in the same place. So whilst there will be quite a lot of tanks on the board, the Russians come in blocks of 10, companies of 10 tanks at a time, and you could probably get 3 companies into a medium or largish game. So 30 tanks, which would be a huge game of Battlegroup, but it will be, perfectly playable in Northag. NATO don't get anywhere near those numbers, of course, but their tanks are generally better.
I've noticed the chieftains are quite good.
Yeah. But I've lost 3 today. So.
Yes. Great dice roll. So this is a joint thing between you and Plastic Soldier Company. You're asked to write the rules for them.
Yeah, I'm effectively just employed as a freelance games designer for Plastic Soldier Company to write and develop Northag for them. They've got a plan for the release of models and kits and stuff to support it. Hopefully going forward, if it goes well, then we can do expansions, the supplements, and cover some more. I think the initial problem is how much can you release to start with a new game of 10 models. It would be lovely to be able to go, oh yeah, we'll do the East Germans and the Americans and the West Germans, and we'll do the Belgians and the Danes and the Canadians, but you just can't release all those models, can't make all those models.
So I suppose part of that will come from not just the sales, but the interest level and requests from players.
Yeah. I mean, it'll ultimately, I guess, it'll come down to a commercial decision by Plastic Soldier Company about whether they think it's worth doing more. They've chosen that it will be British versus Russians to start with, but obviously there's a lot more to do. Just for Germany, you could then expand it further out, and given that it's a make-believe World War III, you've got every other theatre that you could imagine if you wanted to. But to start with, you've got to start somewhere, so it seems obvious that you should do the British Army the Rhine.
Okay. And if you had to sum up the game in a soundbite kind of way, how would you do that? What would be its unique selling point?
It is a game that I've gone for that feels like its period. Whether it actually is its period or not is debatable, but I think it feels like its period. It feels like the Russians have got the advantages the Russians would have. They fight the way the Russians would, or the NATO forces similarly. So I think, for me, and it doesn't feel just like Battlegroup again. It's got similar DNA, same game mechanics that I think work, and I've just repeated, but yeah, it's not the same game.
That's a pretty longish, but that's a fine
very good soundbite.
I think that's exactly what I've experienced today. So thanks for bringing it along today to show us, Warwick, and we'll leave it there if you don't mind. All right. Cheers.
This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated Magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.